Welcome back to another episode of Cobra Kai Companion. I'm Peter. You guys, I say it all the time, and I say that all the time, but very fun and special. So today, I know we're supposed to be doing the episode reviews, watch parties on vacation. I was on vacation before that, but we are ready to do episode one when the time is right. But today's special episode, we have a panel of gentlemen from the Steel City Con this past weekend. So we're going to talk about our experiences and interactions with the cast that was in attendance. So, a lot of familiar voices. Let's kick it off with Cobra Kai Wisdom, Mike G, who you guys have heard before on a number of episodes. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Rumi? How's it going?
Hey, Rumi. Yeah, that's right. We were roomies. We'll talk about that. Going well. Mikey G, you've been on here before as well. Listeners of the show will remember you as the on the episode Peter and Mikey take Hollywood or something to that effect.
Something
Do
like
Hollywood,
that.
you know.
DeLorean, something adventures.
in
Yeah.
in LA. That's you. And then a new voice to the podcast. What am I saying? Podcast. Is Chris Buffet. Now, Chris, maybe I shouldn't have said your whole last name, but you
All
and
good.
I, yeah, we met on KenCast, mutual friend Ken Cole, friend of the show, and that was leading into the premiere drop of season five, the actual release leading into the midnight, at least for the West Coast. It was that evening we met, and you told me that you listened to the pod, that you were a supporter and have been for some time. So we had never met prior to that. So you really threw me off, and it was a really sincere moment. I really appreciate that. And we got to meet each other this weekend for the first time in person, and you also then revealed, you said it in words, so you didn't, like you explicitly said, "I've been listening since the Tom days." So I knew you were a supporter and that
Hell
you
yeah.
listened. So I had no idea you've been a listener that long. And my question is like, why did I only discover you leading into season five?
I don't know. I don't have a big online presence. I
Fair. You're
keep to
right about
myself a
that.
little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me on.
Absolutely. I thought it would be really cool to get I mean, both Mike and Mikey are admins of, companion admins. And so I thought it'd be interesting to have a listener of the show and somebody who was there for their very first Comic Con, you know,
Yeah.
so, so that's going to be really, really fun. Now, for those that are watching on the YouTube channel, I will be sharing photos, and so that may be a little incentive for a little perk even for the audio listeners. You can go and see these pictures on the video podcast on the YouTube channel Companion Network. So we're going to use these images to kind of just round robin and share our experiences from the weekend for those that was unable to make it and that wanted to kind of hear our stories. Let me start off with this. Who were some other companions or friends from the interwebs that you guys ran into today, this weekend?
Uh, well, I hooked up. Well, we met up with Anne, Amy,
Emily.
Emily. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Emily. Um,
Well,
I
also you got to remember, not everybody is, like on Facebook with their real names. On Instagram, like you can come up with anything. And so like remembering real names is very difficult for sure, unless you interact with them on Facebook. So I totally get it. There was definitely some familiar faces that I saw. I'm like, God, that person looks so familiar. But I've only interacted with them on Instagram, and then I wasn't certain until they actually posted something. I'm like, that's right, that is that person. So there was a lot of that too.
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people that I recognize their faces. I don't remember names. Um, but I talked to a few people online. I'm not sure if they're, you know, listen to the show, but you know,
No, no, it's fine.
I'm not
Honestly,
as good as an advertiser as you are. So,
no, no, I
yeah,
totally get it. Actually, like I assume most people just follow me on Instagram,
yeah,
and if they even listen to the show, that's a bonus for me.
yeah,
I don't immediately assume just because they know me from the pod. I feel there's plenty of people that interact with me only on social media and never even listen to an episode. So, anyway, so yeah, I totally know that that's a thing. Um, Rashid and Evan came from the UK, and
Yes.
so that was really cool meeting them. Rashid I've known for some time. Rashid Tarki, for those that know him as part of like Cobra Kai United or the UK. I believe they said it was a 24-hour flight. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
Uh, Mike.
Yeah, he's been flying for a long time. I don't think he had a direct flight to Pittsburgh,
Yeah,
so he was very committed coming from the UK.
yeah,
Um, yeah, a lot of folks. I met you for the first time in person,
that's right.
Peter. We've been friends for about
People
5 years.
forget sometimes.
Yes. Mikey, been friends maybe 4 years, and I met you for the first time in person as well. And
Yeah.
same thing, Anne, Amy, Emily. On my end with the Instagram page, the Wisdom page, got to meet some of those friends who I met on that page, like Lindsay, who we spent some time with, and Beth Blyton, who's one of our fantastic fan artists over on Instagram. Got to meet her, and got to meet some new people who were either friends of friends or people who kind of knew us, like Chris here, who we've been on KenCast together, albeit at 2:30 in the morning my time. And yeah, everyone was just in real good spirits and just real happy to be there after the latest season drop.
Yeah, absolutely. I pretty much met all of those same people, and then the extended group, like also on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Um, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Solo fan that I know is Grace, and then Dina was there as well, and then they also had a friend Cassie that was out there, so got to meet all of them. Very familiar with them on social media, so just a really great turnout. My first time on the East Coast for a comic. Well, no, Dragon Con. So Dragon Con was the first one, and that's just a big con in itself. And so with Steel City, this was like mainly Rakai fans, like families were all dressed as characters, like entire families. And I've never experienced anything like that before. And so I thought
So
that was
many
really,
geese.
really cool.
So many
Um,
geese.
Yeah, I would feel terrible if there's other names that I'm gonna miss. But if I remember anybody else, but I kind of wanted to get them out of the way because it was just, you don't get a chance to meet a lot of people in person like ever. And so the fact that we were able to link up and be surrounded by like these actors that we just adore and they're on like, our favorite show and things like that. It was a really, really just neat shared experience. So okay. Again, for those that are watching at home right now, I have an image of a Steel City T-shirt that I reached out to an artist, Martin Go, who runs Preserved Dragons. Actually, is it Dragon or Dragons? Preserved Dragons. Um, I reached out and he designed this because he had already drawn all these characters. And the only new characters he needed to draw was Jesse Cove. And he needed to age up Allie's character because he only had the Karate Kid 1 Allie at the time. And so the idea was just to give all the actors that were in attendance a t-shirt that was designed by him. And so that's what we have up here. So starting with, okay,
Pitch dragons are the best, by the way.
the picture is not changing like it was earlier. Oh, is my folder? Wait, did you guys see a folder pop up?
No.
No,
Nope.
we still see the image of the shirt. Might
Okay,
just
so
have
you
to
do
click
see.
on that and then click the arrow.
Huh, I did. Okay, I knew this would. Okay, so let's try this. Let's try this again. Okay, there we go. So the first image we have is with Billy. Um, you guys want to just jump into that? So like Mikey, interactions with Billy.
My interaction was real quick. I just told him that I think we were just talked about season 6 real quick and first couple episodes, and then I just told him I'm looking forward to how it ends, and he said, "Awesome, dude! Can't wait till you see it." So that was about it. He's real nice, and as always, this is my second time meeting him. Um, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, for me, I handed him the t-shirt. I got like a little recording of his reaction. It's, he had a really great smile into seeing the t-shirt, and Johnny is basically front and center, along with Daniel. But Johnny's wearing the red eagle fang gi, and so it just pops, especially in front of the black shirt. And so he caught up with me a little bit, asked me what's going on in my world, and but just he didn't spend like any extra time, or like I wasn't he was very mindful of the lines, and also I didn't want to take up time because there's other people there as well. My main thing was like, I want to give you this shirt, and thank you again for being somewhere that I can go. And then so we pose, and Billy often does like that fist, and I didn't have mine up, and he told the guy one more photo. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? And then he put the fist down, and then we just took like a regular photo. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Willie was the only one that did that, that, oh, let's take another one, let me do something different. And so I just it's nothing big, it's nothing small. It was something that just made me go, oh, oh wow, okay. Well, thank you for giving me like another photo, with a different pose. It's just I've never seen that before of all like the selfies I've done, right? And usually it's just like the one pose, and you kind of go. And then for the first time, we did that kind of handshake where you pull each other in, and then you wrap your arm around them, and pat from at the back, and I think when Anne and Pialani joined me for the Ralph Macchio book tour episode, I shared that I did that with Yuji as well that evening, and it was nothing I thought about. It was just like, it just kind of felt natural and right, and it just happened organically. And so it was just one of those things that I walked away from that. And I was just like, and that was different, and I'm not gonna ever forget that, so like Billy's always, he just knows how to accent a fucking moment, like Pelly Fest. I was like, oh, do you guys mind taking a picture with me? Yeah, sure. And then, hey, and everything he says, I'm just like, what? Okay, so I was like, well, how do I continue on after you saying all these really nice things? um uh Chris, you saw me in line with Billy.
Yeah, so I was online to get my picture with Billy, and right as I was kind of like coming around the corner, because I was behind the backdrop, right as I was coming around the corner, I see you getting your picture taken, and then I saw him giving you the hug shake. And then right after that, I called over to you, and you came over to me, and you were like, "Did you get that on? Did you get a picture? Did you get a video?" I was like, "Nah, man, couldn't get my phone out in time."
Yeah,
But yeah, I witnessed it.
it did 100% do that, because I was looking around. Who do I know that was maybe watching, and maybe got a little bit of that, because yeah, it was really, really cool. Yeah, that's all I'll say about it. I don't want to gush anymore. Um, Chris, what was again your very first con? Um, who when you took 4 pictures, was Billy your last?
Billy was my last. And honestly, Billy was the one where I was just like, oh shit, that's William Zabka right there. So when I walked up to him, I was a little bit thrown off because he was kind of talking to his handler, assistant, about like, oh, are we going to do more? Are we going to go through or whatever? Because his line was really long. So I was kind of thrown off. So we just exchanged some, general pleasantries, nice to meet you, love what you do, that type of thing. But I felt like I was almost speechless at that point. Just, being exhausted, standing on lines, and it's hot in the room, and it's in William Zapka suddenly is right in front of you. So yeah, first my last experience of my first con experience. But he was very nice, and he took a picture with just me, and then he like grabbed my wife over. He's like, "Oh, come in, get in one."
Oh, nice.
So we got another one, and that's the one you see here on the screen.
Oh, okay. So that's amazing. So you also got 2 different pictures with him. Now, Mikey, you may not remember, but you mentioned something on day one that Billy noticed me on day one, because we got a photo with him on day two, right?
Oh, right.
Right, day two, yeah.
I don't remember the interaction. I do remember that he gave you a wink, but I don't remember exactly how this
That was it.
happened. So sorry.
because I didn't. You told me I didn't see that.
Yes.
So yeah, because like he had a
I
long
think
line. I don't want to.
we
You
were
know,
visiting Yuji, I believe, because he was right next to Billy. He saw you. I think you said hello, and then he kind of, I think you turned, and then he kind of gave you a wink. Is that what happened? I don't know. I'm
that's
sorry.
you. I definitely didn't see it because you told me. And I'm like, he did what? Like, oh, he saw me because I didn't try to make any eye contact at all because I already planned on seeing him on day two, just because
Yeah.
he had the long line. Um.
I will say
Okay.
Billy is such a mindful person. He really spends like a lot of time with the fan. He loves talking to fans. And if you ever go to meet him, he loves hearing how much you love the show and everything. So, you know.
You know what? Like I wonder if it's because like they had wrapped already, right? With season six, all 15 episodes. I think everyone just seemed a little bit different, like in a good way
Hmm.
this time around. Like Ralph, a different energy, and Billy a different energy. Marty, him just like everywhere with the fans, just taking pictures with groups and just it was a different vibe this time around with the ones that I have seen before.
This sounds this might sound bad, but like Marty, like it feels like the mascot with like Cobra Kai. Like he wants to represent Cobra Kai, and he just loves meeting people. And so I don't mean this in a bad way. He just, he loves the fans, and he'll snap a picture with anybody. He just,
100%,
yeah.
100%. Um, anybody else not share? Mike, did you share?
I have not shared. This was my second time meeting Billy. Best way I can describe him is he's an absolute pro at doing these cons. I'd say he's the most expert of all the actors who were there as how to handle the fans and handle the whole con thing and meeting everyone who wants to meet him. So this was my second time meeting Billy. Um, right before it was my turn in line, someone was over in Yuji's line and handed Yuji this Johnny Lawrence doll,
I saw that.
which I know Billy hates. He hates this doll. It's like one of those things that like makes a Johnny Lawrence sound. So just as I was about to see Billy, Yuji grabs the doll, goes, "Hey Billy, look at this thing!" And Billy looks over and goes, "I hate that doll."
Yes, I did see that. Yes.
And so that was my beginning with meeting him.
That's
But
all.
once I actually got to start talking to him, I introduced myself. I told him that I run the Wisdom page. I said I'm known as the meme guy, and I showed him two of my Wisdom memes, and very much to my surprise, he goes, "Oh, that's you." He goes, "My friends send me those all the time. They're hilarious," which blew me away that he'd ever even heard of me or seen them. I then give him two of them. I said, look at these, sign whichever one you think is the funniest. Like a pro again, he signs both, which was awesome. Then we just start talking about this past season, everything that's been happening, wrapping things up. And he didn't give away any spoilers, obviously, but just started to get into just wait till you see what we've done with these final 10 episodes. It is really, really something. And kind of just left it at that, which was kind of perfect. Like, oh man, like now I'm really excited. And he was genuine. Like, I can't believe what we just finished filming. That was really, really cool. So that got me real excited. And then, yeah, we did our fists up picture and I kind of needed a break after that because he was I saw him on day one. He was the third actor that I visited. But after that, I just needed to like take five and just kind of process what had just happened. But he's he's just a great guy. It's
Yeah,
impossible.
that's it. Yeah, I mean, what else can you say about him? Yeah, everyone just had a great energy, and everyone, nobody, at least for me, I didn't feel rushed with anybody, you know, and so it was packed, it was busy, and they could have all been tired, but they all looked great. Um, just because the pictures of Billy are up in front of my face right now. He looks like he stepped back a few years, like he de-aged. I'm just like it's like this looks like season three Billy. I don't know. Like you know what I mean? Like there's just something about them all. They just all look really great. Okay, so we will move it along to Ralph Macchio. And looks like we all got pictures with him the same day. Mikey, I'll have you kick it off with Ralph.
Yeah, I didn't have a huge interaction with him. I just told him I was a big fan of the Karate Kid ever since I was a kid. I watched it on cable every weekend, and just got a picture. He fist bumped me at the end, and you know, that was I think about it. I don't really have much of a story with him, to be honest. So
Okay, that's still a story. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
okay, sorry.
no worries. Mike, I'll have you go first instead of having you wait at the end.
No, that's cool. Well, first I want to say, big shout out to Mikey here. You can see he and you are wearing these VIP badges. I had one as well. I took them off for my photos, but these things were lifesavers in terms of the overall con experience. And I never would have known about them had we not had our resident expert here, Mikey, tell us you got to get the VIP badge in terms of getting to the lines to see as many of the different actors throughout the the con as you could in just a 3 day period. And not everyone was there for 3 days, so very much grateful to Mikey that we had that. Um, yeah, I met Ralph on Saturday. He was the only one I had not met on the first day. The big thing I wanted to talk with him about was his directing of episode 3 in season 6. Because again, I've met him before, and I've told him how happy I am that Cobra Kai is back, and it's so great that he decided to come back as Daniel. I showed him a meme as well, but I really wanted to talk with him about the directing job and how truly blown away I was at what he did with that third episode. He had a lot to do. If you really think about that episode 3, he had to introduce all of Team Korea, Kwan, Yoon, all those characters, all the bad guys basically that are going to be that show up at the end. He had to introduce that whole storyline. Then he had to get over and deal with his own storyline, the Mr. Miyagi box, and all of that. Then he had the third story with Johnny, Tori, and Sam and the slumber party to get the humor aspect of it. And given that this was really his big directorial debut, I thought it was a very, very impressive first go at it. And I wanted to get that across to him and say, I don't know what you have planned for the future, but I really hope you consider directing things again because you really knocked it out of the park with this one. And he seemed responsive and appreciative about it. I did also mean to talk with him about his book because that had come out as well since the last time I saw him, but kind of ran out of time there. But we'll get him next time. But again, he's just so grateful. They're all grateful, but Ralph's always just real grateful to the fans and that this thing has been kept alive for over 40 years.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I just wanted to add a little side note. You mentioned him, like all the different things in episode 3. That is still only 36 minutes runtime, and that's including like credits and stuff at the end. That's
Amazing.
wild.
Yes.
You know, it's almost like 10 minutes to each of those storylines, you know? Amazing. Chris, I'll let you start with this because I believe Ralph was the first person you saw.
No,
Oh,
actually, I met Ralph on Saturday. When we first got there, we went right to Ralph's line, but then we found out that he got there really late. And at a certain point, we were actually moved back because the line was so long. We were moved back to the other half of the room because they had to like section off the line. So we were like, we're going to be here. We got there around like 3:30 p.m. Like we're going to be here the whole time basically until it closes, waiting for Ralph. So we figured we'd start Saturday since we had a 3-day pass, get in at 9:30, go right to his line. So that's what we did. Didn't have too long of a wait. And it was surreal. Once we got up to him, I was like practicing in my head what I was gonna say, just because like I knew if I didn't have my bullet points, my mind would just go blank, kind of like it did with Billy later that day. But I got the chance to just tell him that the Karate Kid movies got me through some really tough times growing up. And that Cobra Kai is also helping me get through just adulting, and just tough times as an adult. Um, and some other things, but the one thing that um, I found like the most interesting is that I kind of jokingly said to him, I was like, yeah, now I just need you and the big three to do a sequel series to Crossroads. And he was like, well, it's not with the big three, but there is something in development with Crossroads. And I was like,
Oh,
what? And he's like, yeah, it's with the guy who created it. There's something we're working on. So I don't know if anyone else got that scoop, but I was certainly happy to hear that because I always used to watch that because it's like basically the Guitar Kid. It's basically the Karate Kid with the blues. So I've always been a fan of that movie. So it was really cool to get that scoop on that from him, get that little tidbit. And he was just as nice as you would ever hope like a celebrity could be. And I'm pretty sure I floated away from that on a cloud when I left. He was very nice. I got my picture with him, and then he asked because my wife was standing nearby. He's like, "Oh, do you want to get in one?" And after we took that one, he was like, "Now it's worth something." So thanks for that, Ralph.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's what great experiences for all of you guys. But yeah, maybe you guys heard it first. Something related to Crossroads in the works. So we'll keep an eye on that. Um, my with me, I went up with a t-shirt, right? And the first thing he says to me is like, "What are you doing on this coast?" I was like, because he knows I'm from the West. The last time he saw me was in Portland, and he had thought I was from Seattle because he saw me at the book tour the year before that. And I was like, no, I drove up from Portland because that was the closest to me, and so he knew that I was from the West Coast, and that was the first comment he made. And then I was like, hey, I got this shirt for you. Um, did the whole spiel that I do with everybody. And the first comment he makes is like, oh, I bet Marty loves this being right there in the center. That's the first that's the first thing he said. Yeah. And so I just love that little dig because they even do that stuff on in panels. And so that was pretty much it. And then like you, Mike, we talked about like his directing and the different inspirations of other movies that they drew from for like some of the framing of certain sequences and stuff like that, which many have heard on like a number of interviews, because um people have kind of asked like this was a big deal. This is Ralph's first episode of Cobra Kai that he's directed, so he was really proud of it, and I wish that like I wouldn't be able to do it at the con, but I would love pick his brain about that episode in some capacity. So I think that might have been it for me, but that's not the end with Ralph, and I'll save like to piggyback towards the end there. So moving on from Ralph, if nothing else, the gasoline. So let's see here. Mikey, why not? You first again.
Okay. So my interaction with Yuji was really related with you because we were in line together to meet him. I I didn't even talk to him mostly. I had this whole plan in my head because I was going to tell him this story about when I was a kid and how I knew that Chosen was a badass. Because I remember being on the playground in grade school and talking to this other kid about Karate Kid 2, and I hadn't seen it yet. And he was talking about Chosen and how he was this whole, I don't know if we used badass back then, but badass villain. Um, and I said, "Oh yeah, well, Daniel probably beat him with the crane kick." And this kid turned to me and said, "Nah, he blocked it." Don't.
Wow.
And I was
Ruined
just,
it for you.
whoa, he blocked the crane kick? So I was gonna tell him that story, but I was with you, and I'm not. This isn't shade to you, but you were talking to him, and you had paid for an autograph and a picture, and you totally weren't paying attention, and you guys were catching up, which was great because you guys know each other very well, and so you have this whole 5 minute conversation, and then you were about ready to walk away, and I'm like, Peter, do you want to get your autograph and picture that you paid for, man? Like. And then he turned to me and said, "Make sure you take care of him, or watch out for him. He needs it." I'm like, "Hey, I got it. Don't worry." So
Because yeah, I guess when he told you that, like I already walked off
You
or
did,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
But and then I just introduced myself. I said I'm Mikey. I obviously I'm Peter's friend if you can't tell. And he said, yeah, I caught that, and and just said, big fan of the show, and that was about it. But yeah,
It almost sounds like you ruined it for yourself. If you didn't
I did,
remind me,
yeah. No, I'm not blaming you. No, but
if
yeah,
you didn't remind me that I just gave like Yuji free money for nothing, basically
yeah,
gas money. I gave Yuji
yeah.
gas money and walked off. He would have been fine and shared that story. But thank you for sharing that story. That's actually really, really awesome. And at least for me, I forget that Chosen blocks the train kick. But you're right, that makes him even more badass, you know?
It amazed me as a child. Like I first hearing it and then watching it, later after that, I was like, oh my God, he blocked the crane kick. You
Yeah.
know.
Because like it's that thing, like I've watched it so much, like it's just everything's just so second nature, like clockwork, right? So I know it happens, but I haven't it's been so long that I've even it's never occurred to me that, or processing it that right, Chosen blocked it. Like it just happens. I'm like, that's it, like there was another watch out of the way. So Mike, I'll let you go next. And then Chris, you haven't gone yet, right?
No.
Okay, all right. So Mike and then Chris.
Yeah, and hearing Mikey's story, that's funny because I think I saw Yuji about 20 minutes after the two of you. And Peter, you were still fairly close by in proximity. So when I came over, I said, "Hi, I'm Mike." And I pointed over to you. I said, "I'm Peter's friend." And he goes, "I'm sorry." And now hearing Mikey's story, that makes a lot more sense as to why he was kidding, of course. But it makes more sense why you were still fresh in his mind saying something like that. So that was a funny way to introduce. And my conversation with him was shorter in comparison to Ralph and Billy, but I just said an honor to meet him. He was one of the reasons, even before I knew you were going to be coming, that I wanted to go to this con instead of others. That he was going to be there because I'm a Karate Kid fan uh, above all else. So I know he does not do cons as frequently. So when I heard that he was going and that it was on the East Coast, I had to be there. So I just thanked him for agreeing to bring Chosen back and the way he did it. That I've loved what they've done with the character, and that was pretty much it. But again, just very grateful. Great guy, of course, nice guy, and it was just fun to meet him and get that shot with him.
Yeah, yeah. It was a lot of fun. Like seeing Yuji and all that stuff, and I'll get to my stories. But Chris, what was your interaction like with Yuji?
So we met Yuji the first day on Friday. He's the second person we met. Yuji, like once I saw that Yuji was going to be there, I was like, okay, there's no way I am not going to this. Just because, like Mike said, it's like, it doesn't seem like he does these that often. And when am I going to have the opportunity to meet Yuji? I used to just wear out the Karate Kid 2. Like I love the whole trilogy. They're some of my favorite movies of all time. I think 2 is my favorite, and a lot of it has to do just with how cool Chosen is. So I got the chance to tell Yuji that. Um, and my wife is also she's not like a diehard. She humors me. She watches all this stuff with me. But she really gets a kick out of Chosen in Cobra Kai. So I definitely wanted to make sure she got a chance to meet him and get in the picture as well. He was super super nice. And then I mentioned, oh yeah, I'm friends with Peter, and he was like,
Oh,
oh yeah, he's around here somewhere.
that's new
And
to
then I
me.
almost
You didn't tell me that.
and then I almost forgot my picture, which he had to call me back over to give it to me, and I was like, oh thanks, I'll keep for my collection.
Perfect. I was about to say, like, did he say that? But perfect.
Yeah, he wrote
Um.
that on the picture.
Oh, okay.
That's what he wrote.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's his favorite quote. Um. Yeah, it's fine. I just don't like the context of it on the show. Like, it changed it. Anyway, um, that's an amazing story. Did not know you also name dropped me, so that's funny. I was wondering because I was just gonna joke, like, oh, you should have said something, and maybe he would have been like, I can't believe this guy even has friends. Like, you know, because yeah, that's really cool to kind of hear. So Yuji, here's a shirt, and he's very familiar with Martin's artwork because he likes to buy like the chosen stickers and give it out to people. And because Martin has also told me that he's like spoken with Yuji about some of the chosen stuff, so he's very familiar. And he saw the shirt and he was just like, oh yeah, sweet, he thought it was really really cool. And then he told me, did you see what Angie was wearing? Like Angela, his wife. And Mike, when you said that I was nearby, I was talking with her. I was with her more than I was with Yuji, And so he was like, "Did you see what she was wearing?" And I had already said hello to her at that point, and she was wearing the design I had made of the Okinawan assassin. So I thought that was really awesome that like, hey, Peter's gonna go, and they decided to bring a shirt, so I thought that was really, really awesome. Um, and then yeah, Mikey, you were there, so I forgot about like my picture and stuff like that, and so I had to do it. I had to get a Karate Kid 2 chosen picture, and there's just, there's just something about that, And if you guys scour the interwebs for pictures of Chosen, there's a really great one of Yuji wearing the yellow gi and smiling and looking off to the side. It's just, and his wife mentioned it. She said it's a great contrast to his character, and it's just a really great smile and like Chosen's, he's a bad guy. And so, oh, look at that. Chris got the exact same one. So there we go. And he asked me what I want to say. And again, I know if I just say you pick, I know what he would write. So I said, my favorite is maybe Trouble Looking for You, and that's what he wrote. So that's what I got. What pictures did you two get, Mike and Mikey?
I got the other black and white of him looking a little more vicious with the blood running
Ah,
down
the
the side
beat
of his
up
suit.
one. You with
Yeah,
the
vicious chosen. I'm calling it vicious dumb
okay,
chosen.
not beat up
And
chosen, vicious chosen. Got it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
battle scars.
and he wrote, "You are gasoline."
Nice. Mikey,
I did not get an autograph, but I wish I would have. But
I'm sorry. I should have
no,
I should have double checked. So
no, it's all right. But I will say, out of everyone that I visited in this con, Yuji s- spends the most time with fans. And that's no
Yeah.
shade to anybody else, but he will talk to you for a good 2 minutes. So he appreciated talking to all the fans that were in line. So not good if you're waiting in line, but good, but good whenever you get up to meet him. So.
And him and for those that are listening at home, we decided to refer Elizabeth Shue as Lisa because, like in Ralph's book, he talks about it, and it's just quicker to say, and we were already doing it all weekend. Um, so Lisa and Yuji, those two, this is both of their second cons ever. And Yuji went to Toronto with a few of them. I don't remember exactly who was all there, but from what I understand, it wasn't a huge turnout. Definitely not something like Steel City Con, where it was like mostly Cobra Kai fans, right? So it was a little bit different. And so this time around, this is Yuji's like first huge experience with fans and a lot of people meeting him for the first time. And so like love that for him. And it's great that he spent, just a little bit with the fans, especially the ones that travel so far to come see him, So really, really, really amazing. And just, I don't love this expression, but I feel it's necessary, but you love to see it, So
Yeah.
just super happy for the guy. Um, all right, we will move on unless I could think of any uh, shade he was throwing my way. Um, just that's pretty much it. Spent a lot of time with Ange, just catching up. She was definitely doing the talking for him because he was just so busy. I'm trying to think of
She is
any.
so nice, by the way. She is such
Yeah,
a nice woman.
she
It's
took
nice to meet
photos with
her.
some people that also recognized her and knew who she was. So yeah, so that was really cool to see her there. All right, there's something about Mary, and we are now with Mary Mauser. We all four. Chris, I'll have you started off. This is the last actor you saw, and also real quick, when we were talking about Ralph, I assumed Ralph was the first person you saw because when you texted me that you were there, you were in Ralph's line, so I thought that you
Yeah.
saw him then. So that's when we first connected, and that was our moment. You were in Ralph's line, and I was in Yuji's line, And I was just like, yeah, I'm standing over here. Where are you at? And there you were. So, your experience and interactions with Mary.
Yeah, when we first saw each other, and if we didn't know any better, we would have thought we were in a sauna, which is how hot it, just unbearably hot in that room it was at that time. Yeah, that was when I was like, you know what, I want to go out and get some air. So I was like, all right, Ralph's line is not going to be doable right now because we got there so late. So I was like, all right, let's see what's up over at Mary's booth. And it was, not a long wait in comparison. So um, went over to Mary, and that was the first person I was ever meeting at a con. So I was like, oh wow, this is happening. Like she's right there. This is crazy. It almost that at that point it almost didn't even register that oh yeah, I'm meeting Mary Mauser. Um, so I went up to her. I told her like, hey, this is my first con. You're the first person I'm meeting. And she was like, "Oh God, I hope I don't mess this up for you." But she was incredibly sweet. We talked about the scene that she and Peyton did, where Sam and Tori make up and hug, and I told her that scene. I can't watch that. I've watched the season back. I don't know, 6 or 7 times. I've watched part one at this point, and every time I watch that scene, I tear up. They both killed it. Just really great performances, and the journey that Sam and Tori are part of the journey where they were at that point. Um, and she was like, "Yeah, we didn't have a lot of time to film that day. So, and that scene in particular, she said, we were really, we didn't have a lot of time. So the emotions were real. And, it was like, they were like crying for real as they were going through it. Um, so it was just cool to hear her talk about that. And I also got to tell her that I do covers of the music from Cobra Kai, and I most recently did a cover of Sam's theme because I'm a big fan of Sam's motif, and I did like an '80s synthwave style kind of medley of different elements of different cues that they've done for Sam. So I got to tell her about that, and I told her, it's on YouTube if you ever want to check it out. I doubt she ever will, but I got to tell her about that, and she was like, "Oh, that's so cool! I'll definitely check it out." Yeah, and then we took our picture. She was nice as can be, and I was like, "Wow, damn, that just happened." My first
That's awesome.
first con experience.
Yeah, there you go. That's amazing. And that's excuse me. And from the few interviews that I've seen, she's very proud of that scene with her and Peyton. And I think everybody agrees like it was a great moment. And I don't want to get too much into it because like we're into review territory, but I had the same reaction to that sequence, um, similar to when Robbie and like Johnny hug. It's just like, oh my God, like yes, finally, like it fucking happened, and they're both apologizing, and it's just it's great. And so I know she's really proud of that, and so that's a really cool moment that you guys got to talk about that. Mikey, what about you?
Um, so I was talking to her, and as Mikey always does when he's around a beautiful woman, he fumbles his lines. And so I said, I'm a big Mary LaRusso fan. And then I'm like, nope, that's not it. Samantha LaRusso, and then I just kind of left it there and just said, yeah, so yeah.
Uh, the foot
So
that's a tough one because these cons, you have like the casual fans that will mess that up and not even realize it. But you knowing that you did,
mhm.
and the idea of her even thinking like he doesn't even know my character's name. Like
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
But I'm laughing
that's
at
all
your
right. I was
expense.
like, yeah, I messed that up. But I'm a fan of your character, just yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome possum. All right.
Hmm.
Mike, what about you?
That's funny. Yeah, she's just so delightful. I mean, you see her in interviews and at different cons, and that's always the impression I get. And it was just confirmed 100%. same thing with the others. I showed her a Wisdom meme, one that she had actually reposted about a year and a half ago. I was hoping maybe she would remember it. She said she did. I don't know if she was telling the truth or not, but got to hear that patented Mary laugh, which was worth the price of anything. And yeah, just got to tell her a little bit. I think I worded it that I was just like really proud of her character and all the development that Sam's been through, particularly in the last 3 seasons, how far she's come, and it's been real cool. And I think I said something like, and I have a feeling that the best with Sam is really still yet to come. And you know, she didn't answer, but just was like nodded her head, like perhaps. But just just as sweet as can be, and it was a fun experience meeting her. I was glad she was there.
They are so good at dancing around, tiptoeing some of the stuff. I was talking with Amy, and she mentioned, let me get this right too, since I'm bringing it up, I don't want to screw up anything she said. Oh crap, it was in the comments because it was something about her asking Ralph if like Johnny and Daniel lived happily ever after. Amy, I'm so sorry, I'm butchering it and whatever. And she said basically he was like being coy and was like, oh, maybe they do, maybe they don't, like something like that. But also on the topic of Amy, I asked her, if she wanted to kind of share anything, and she said that every person and interaction was great, and Zapka is the master of the unexpected bear hug. But my favorite thing that happened was realizing one of my autographs from him was from Billy Zapka instead of William. And so, like, if you
Mm,
guys go back and look at some of your autographs that you've gotten from Billy, like you see that W,
yeah.
and so he actually signed an older headshot of his that she had, Billy. So that's amazing. And then let's see. And then she says after that it was all a blur. And I concur, and I see that 'cause everything's just mushed into like one day for me. And that is it about the con. But yeah, and then I was just yeah, so we just kind of went back and forth a little bit. Oh, look at that. This picture of her and Lisa. Okay. So so I believe Mary was probably the one I had the second most time with during the weekend. Um, and the other thing was like, and so we'll get to this factor later, but Jesse, I spent the most time with all 3 days. Like, I couldn't fight Jesse off of me, you guys. I just, Jesse, leave me alone. Like I spent a lot of time with Jesse, and we did like a Instagram. Well, I'll save those stories, but because I was over there often. Mary was staged next to him. So because of that, I found myself speaking with Mary as well. Now, you guys are sharing your stories. I'm like, I don't think I even really talked to her about any Sam scenes. Like we were just talking about like other stuff. And this is where I will kind of lump in a lot of like, different conversation on different days or whatever. But I do remember at one point I shared with her, I was all like, "Oh, when the girls took over Lone Lobos, like I thought you had really great perspective and a lot of interesting things to say. Like I was really hanging on to you as a host. Like yeah, I think you should start a podcast." And she was just like, I don't know, like I just want to talk, but I don't have anything to talk about. I go, "That's a podcast. You you call it." Like a Mary Mauser podcast, and then every episode you just hit record and just go, just because like, Jacob and Sholo is a great host as well. And when they're not like being silly, they they do their due diligence and their research. But again, like we've never heard Mary talk like that. And to hear her thoughts on characters and Cobra Kai and life and all these other things, I was like, he's really good at hosting and kind of leading conversations. And so I think that I think she was I don't want to, like I, I felt maybe like it's something that she was like, I don't know, maybe that's something she might entertain. And her handler was like, I agree. Like, I think you have a good voice. You should do it. I'm like, you see, and that's why, like, on social media, I kind of posed that question, and a lot of people agreed. I didn't have one person saying no. Like the ones that commented, they all said 100%. Like, so they agreed. Um, excuse me. The other thing I brought up, I forgot how we discussed um somehow I think I told her like, like I had to come because I don't know if like, because only Ralph, Marty, and Billy has come to the Pacific Northwest. And so when I say they, it's like you guys that haven't been up there. I said I had to come to this because I don't know if you guys would ever make it up there. And she's like, well, no, I definitely want to go there at some point because I'm a huge Twilight fan. And so this wasn't the same day, but the next day I was I was hanging out with Jesse and Mary had just finished up with somebody and I think she was almost going to go on a break because this was definitely like a bit of a lull for like a few of them because they were about to take their like midday break or whatever it was. And I just kind of leaned over. I was like, I forgot to ask, but like, are you team Jacob or team Edward? Reference to Twilight for those that don't know. And the look on her face, I covered my mouth. I go, oh my God, did I just insult Mary Mauser? And then she was like, Jacob, Jacob, you mean the guy? And she just went off and told me all the things she hates about that character from Twilight. I go, I'm so sorry I asked, but that could be an episode on your podcast, and so um
Foretell a
but
lot.
she was obviously busting my balls and anyway, so that was one story. I think that's all worth sharing for now. So, all right. So moving on from Mary, and I don't know what I did because it's not changing the picture. Um, Okay. Oh, I think I know what it is. So go to, there we go. All right. So after Mary, we have Tanner, who is on the other side of her. So it goes Jesse, Mary, then Tanner. Mikey, your interaction with, oh, and this is where Chris sits out a little bit. But Chris, if you when we go to these actors that you didn't get a chance to see, if you saw anything like an interaction with them in a fan, something like that, just observations. Mikey, what was your interactions with Tanner like?
Um, I talked. I think I just talked to him. Think I said something like your athleticism is very impressive. Big fan. That was about it. I think I didn't really talk
Okay.
to him too long. Um, I think what was most interesting, what is he said was during the panel. I don't know when you're talking about that, but yeah. So
We probably won't get into the panel. It's going to be the Steel City Con. You guys can eventually find it on YouTube. We won't get into depth about it, but maybe at the end, we started really late for inside baseball, and so like I feel at some point I might be told to stop prematurely, but so we will be brief on that if at all.
okay.
Um,
But
so Mike, your interaction.
yeah, another great guy. Showed him another meme, same thing. I don't think he had ever seen them before. He's never reposted anything of mine, but got a nice belly laugh out of him. And uh, my thing that I wanted to get across with him is just from a physicality perspective, like how much he's improved. If you look at season one up through season five, the things he's able to do now is just absolutely amazing. And I know he's talked about how much work he puts into that. So I wanted to get across to him that we can see that and that it's really, really amazing if you look at all the final fights that he's done. And he was less shy about talking about. He did get more specific at the panel later on, but basically what he came across to me was wait until the next part of season six. Like if you liked season four, what I did in five, and to some extent in part one here, wait till part two, which again, your mind is blown from
Tease.
there. So
What a tease. And yeah, maybe yeah. Anyway, um, so again, hearing your stories made me kind of like, okay, well, what was my interaction with Tanner with? So like, I saw Tanner immediately after Mary, and so presented the shirt. Oh yeah, I gave Mary the shirt. She loved it. Um, Now with Tanner, he like I think he loved it, because he held it up in front of him, then he put it down, and then he flattened it and was just, and he was just like, "This is dope," and it's funny because he was just like, "Hey man, what's up?" And so we didn't talk anything about Cobra Kai, but like again, also inside baseball, like I've maybe dropped hints. I don't know. You guys listen to the show, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I may have like dropped tidbits that like, yeah, I got to visit the set earlier this year. So like I just saw Marion Tanner just a few months ago, and then I talked a little bit about Cobra Kai. But like it would have been nice to talk about some of the scenes that I did get to see because at that point they were still in production. And so I did have them sign a picture of the three of us from my set visit. And so like I had to keep that under wraps so nobody could see, that because that episode isn't out. Um yeah, that was pretty much it with Tanner as well. Um, just a really nice warm guy, obviously. I think there was a little shade thrown at some point, but I don't remember exactly what it was he said. But it's we talked a little bit about like Team Korea, since I met those guys as well. So it was all one of those just kind of like, if you know kind of conversations, unfortunately. Um, but okay, that's pretty much it. We will move on to Lisa Shue. Let's see here. It looks like we got her all in the same day, and I'll just have Mikey start us off with your interactions with her.
Um, sorry. Yeah, I just talked to her about I think the first Karate Kid movie. I think I said something. I don't remember exactly. Um, I did find it because I found it amazing that so when you get photos with these celebrities, they call them selfies, but they're not really selfies. They have a handler taking them for you or someone working at the con. But here at this point, at least with me, there was nobody working with her at that point. Maybe they were on break, I'm not sure. So Elizabeth Shue picked up my actual cell phone, flipped around the picture and took an actual selfie of us, which I just thought it was kind of amazing. So, and yeah, I don't know. I really like this picture of the two of us out of all the pictures taken this weekend. So,
Of course you do. Of course you
yeah,
do. Uh,
crazy, huh?
Mikey, were we in line together?
I don't remember.
Because I'm just kind of wondering, like it's very possible that like you said, like if she didn't have somebody with there, I do wonder like how many people had the quote unquote selfie. So we'll have to go back and check our friends. Is like I know I just mentioned actually Amy got one.
Okay,
Yeah. So a lot of people probably
because it looks like it's
got
not the case with Mike, so that's why
Yeah, mine was not a selfie.
that sounds like shade.
I mean
Mike, tell
it's just fun. It's just funny. I don't know. It's just
yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Mike, why don't you t tell us about your regular ass picture of Elizabeth Shue?
Said, I ain't touching this guy's Android phone. No, sir. Uh, no, this was just great to meet her. I mean, again, at my heart, I'm a Karate Kid fan. I'm also a Back to the Future fan. That, like
Yeah.
you, that's my other trilogy. So this was a double whammy for me. And I remember standing in line because she was one of the two people that I actually wanted to get one of their pictures signed. And I'd say she had the most diverse spread of different pictures of different films that she's done over the years. And I was just looking at it, like, oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, that one too. Karate Kid, Back to the Future. Some people were there for Adventures in Babysitting, which was awesome. And then
Shout out to the young woman that was dressed as Sarah from Adventures in Babysitting, that wore a helmet and all. And I gave her a shout out. I was walking by and I was like, "Hey, love your costume." I said, "Don't f with the babysitter," and I just love that you're dressed as Sarah. And her face, I'm sure she was recognized by like a few people, saying the same thing. But maybe I said, you're dressed as Sarah, like that. But her reaction was like, "Oh, "That's the first time I heard that," and she was just very like, thank you so much. I'm like, yeah, and that was after like our group photo. And so like we were moving. So like I would have asked to have taken a picture just because of the outfit she was wearing. It was really, really cool.
that's awesome. And yeah,
Can
my,
I
my
add that? Sorry.
go ahead.
Do it.
Yeah. I just wanted to say someone actually I saw somewhere on social media, someone actually brought in those ugly Jennifer Parker pants and had her sign them, autograph them, which is just amazing. And she's making like a weird face in them. I don't know. It's probably played for comedic effect, but I love that. Yeah. So
Awesome. Someone was dressed up fully as Jennifer Parker on that first day as well.
Oh, I
Oh,
missed
no
that.
kidding. I missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
But yeah, my conversation with her was brief. Like, just told her I'm a Karate Kid fan and also a Back to the Future 2 fan. So this is uh, great for me. And I just thanked her for coming to these because, like Yuji, this is only her second con ever. And the fact that she, came to this giant one with all the Cobra Kai and Karate Kid folks, I just told her I appreciated her coming, and she was grateful, very, very nice. And that was pretty much it. But I was glad that she was there so I could add to my collection.
Yeah. The first thing I did was, I gave her a print. It was a postcard print of Kayvon's art of Ally with an Eye from Karate Kid 1 is a side profile. And I put that down. I go, oh, this is for you. Like I know the artist, and she sent me a bunch of like postcards and stuff. And I'd like you to have this one. And I just slid it over. And she's like, oh, that's beautiful. And then I pulled out the t-shirt. I go and then I reached out to a different artist and had these made for all of you guys that came here. So thank you very much for being here. And she's like, oh wow, that's really awesome. And I don't want anyone to think like this is like any sort of shade, but I don't consider her Jennifer Parker. It's just that's just
How
how I
dare you?
feel. Like she's all these other things before Jennifer Parker for me. So she's Chris Parker for me. She's Allie with an I, and she's Anne from Heart and Souls. And so what I told her was, I kept it brief after I gave her the t-shirt. And also, like, this is Elizabeth Shue, right? So, like, I feel a lot of us think of her as like this really high, like, A-lister of an actress, right? So, and it being her second con, I don't know if I've ever really heard of anybody's um interactions with her and things of that nature. So I had no expectations going in, just like, oh, what this is going to be like. But what I did pick up on is that she gave me her undivided attention. She did not look
Yes.
down and sign anything while I was speaking to her, and I really appreciated that. And I picked an alley with an eye, a picture. I think it was the football one, where she's holding the football. We
Yeah.
saw in episode, 103 in the glass case. Yeah, exactly, Mikey. Oh, I thought you were doing the pose.
Oh, that's
Just scratching your
totally
head.
what
I
I
thought
was
you
doing. Yep. Mm-hmm.
so she signed that one, and then I ended it with, "Thank you so much for my childhood. I grew up on Adventures in Babysitting, The Karate Kid, and also into the '90s. I was a huge fan and still am, and I still watch Heart and Souls just for like a good cry because it's not a movie that you get like, oh, you must see this, but like she's in it, RDJ is in it, and it has a great cast." And it's just something from my childhood that one of those comfort movies for me. So and she was really it appeared that she was really appreciative to have heard all of that. So all right, moving on from that, we have Reese. So Marty Kove, and at this point it is now down to me and Mike. So Mike, what was your interactions with him like?
Yeah, I think I went right after you. I think this was the one time you and I were in line together. This is towards the beginning of day one. And I've met Marty as well on one prior occasion, and just a good guy. He could sit down and tell you stories for 20 minutes if you'd let him. And he's also famous for having some loose lips. So I tried very hard not to say anything that would get him to start responding. Oh well, in episode 7, this happens. Let me tell you. So I didn't want to accidentally put him in that position, but just a grateful guy. And I did one thing I really did want to tell him was that his scenes in season 5, the with the psychologist and going through his trauma and his past, I thought was his finest acting achievement. And then coupled with how it ends up at the end, I thought he was just absolutely brilliant in that. So I wanted to get that across to him, and I did, and he seemed to appreciate it. So it was a nice conversation.
Yeah. And again, hearing your guys' story, another person I did not talk to about Cobra Kai. I, gave him his t-shirt and like Marty's knows, what are they, fried chicken? What is, like a young chick? Like he's, sometimes I don't know if Marty can like if he would recognize me out in public, like and like I'm not like throwing any sort of shade, um, I just that's just a thing I do when I see him. I remind him when's the last time we saw each other. Like when I saw him in Atlanta, I was like, "Oh yeah, I just interviewed you and Susan not too long ago." And he's like, "Oh, that's right." And so this time around, I was all like, "Hey, the last time we saw each other was when I was visiting with Frank and you showed up for your fitting." And I was like, "That's who I reached out to get, make sure I got the right size for your t-shirt." And he loved it, just like Tanner. Same thing. He held it up in front of him, he put it down and flattened it, spread it out. Even his handler was like admiring it as well, and he just loved it. And you can see it in the video. He extends his hand to shake my hand. Thank you for this. And so then at the same time, that's when I mentioned Frank. He goes, "Oh, I love Frank, and I don't go shopping, and so and I'm just like, oh yeah, I said the wrong thing. Now Marty's, going on this tangent, and there's this line, and I just want to hand you this T-shirt, and but Marty being Marty, just loving the fans, but also just him saying that how much he loved Frank. I love that. Um, Anytime they talk about another cast member, because that's not something they're probably going to hear at a con, right? Like in line, just hearing like, oh, blah blah blah, cast member or crew member, you know, that kind of deal. So it was a good one. One of my favorite interactions, and just one of my favorite people to see this weekend in that element with the fans and stuff, and just eating it, and it just so like him and Yuji just taking it all in, just really loved it. And I think that yeah, that was pretty much it. I picked the photo of him as Kreese in Korea walking down the line, of the new students as they were kind of doing like that little pivoting turn towards the camera kind of deal. So it was a really cool photo, and I was just like, I have to have that one. And now I believe this is the last actor. The first person who most of us saw is Jesse Cove, my bestie, my BFF, I guess. Uh, too much to get into. Spent a lot of time. We did a little Instagram live where he's the one who he put the phone towards like the a steel CD like image, kind of behind him to get, more people to pop in during the live. And then when he thought it was the moment, he flipped the phone around to reveal his face. And we, kind of played this little bit of him looking for his phone, but he ended up with my phone somehow. Anyway, so there was that. And Jesse's reaction to the t-shirt was like a kid on Christmas. Like you guys like his face. I was just and you can see this in the reel actually of how he reacted. And he had never seen Martin Goes before, and also he had never seen David because it was a brand new piece that Martin drew. And so seeing that, with all the other characters on that t-shirt, um, apparently meant a great deal to him because he was just giving me everything, like autograph photos. And then like on the last day, he gave me a mug that he signed and he's like, "Here you go." I'm just like, "Oh, well, thank you." So that was really sweet. Jesse was a huge teddy bear. And the shirt, yeah, for those that can't tell, I am wearing the shirt that I handed everybody. Jesse started a kind of a small trend on signing my back, and Mary signed my back, and Tanner signed my back, and I wasn't even gonna try with the other guys, but like since Yuji is my quote unquote friend, I was like, "Yuji, could you sign this?" And he signed that there on the last day as well. So I have to be careful to not get this washed, so that way the ink stays on the back.
Hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, just too many stories with Jess. We had a good time, and we will kind of jump in. Well, there's a picture with Chris, but let me. Oh gosh, I'm revealing too many pictures. We're just gonna segue, Mikey, real quick into Britt Baker, wrestler, not a person I know, but I'm familiar with the name because I know the Coves. They like to frequent wrestling matches, and that they are friends with her and stuff like that. So I'm kind of segueing into this. I have your picture in here, so we'll see it. I don't want to reveal too many before we get there, but you're the one who told me who she is, and we all know that she's a big Cobra Kai fan. I had one shirt left, and I decided to go give her the shirt. and she thanked me for it. Yeah, she said she's a big fan of the show. But later on that day, it might have been, I don't know, an hour or so afterwards, hanging out with Jesse, as I do. And I think Britt decides to take a break. And Mikey, you were with me at this point, but kind of like, gave us our space or whatever. And so I think Jesse's kind of telling her a little bit about me and whatever. Um, and so I just bring that up because like I thought it was kind of cool that she decided to come over and talk to us and we talked about the show and things of that nature, characters that she likes and story plot as fans do, and so that was a lot of fun. I thought it was kind of interesting that like I gave her the shirt and they're like, no, now she's over here talking to Jesse, and I happen to be there, and here we are now. It's the three of us just bullshitting. I thought that was really cool, and to me again, since I don't know her as a wrestler, to me she was Jesse's friend, and that was really interesting for me, and she also didn't treat me as like, oh, like we have to be we have to put on this professionalism, facade in front of this guy. Like there was none of that. She was herself, and Jesse was himself in front of me, and it was just kind of a cool experience, and that's why I wanted to include it because I was standing with Jesse when that happened. So Chris, there we go. We're at the panel. A picture of you and me. Um, what is? How about you share a moment that you liked from the panel?
Oh gosh. Honestly, I liked walking out of the panel because it was so hot in that tent. Uh, but the panel honestly was like when I saw that there was going to be a Cobra Kai Karate Kid panel, I was like, oh, I I would love to be there at one of these because I'm always watching them on YouTube. So my favorite moment definitely would have been, I think it was towards the end actually. A fan asked Billy to do quiet, and at first he played coy, like, "Oh, I can't do that. I think it's illegal," or he said something
Yep,
like
yep.
that.
Yeah, he said it was
And
illegal.
then he did it, and he clipped the mic pretty bad, but it was worth it. Just
It
to
was
be
so
able
much.
to experience that in person, that was so cool. Bucket list moment for sure.
And on that very moment, if anybody's on social media, Amy shared her vantage point of him doing it, and you like Billy does this face, he kind of scrunches up his face like, yeah, I did that, like it's really really funny. Mikey, what about you?
My favorite moment from the panel was someone asking Yuji when he was in his prime
Yes, me too. My favorite. Go ahead.
if he could beat. Wait, who'd they ask if he could beat? I can't even remember that
Oh,
part.
first, basically like when you're in your prime, like like the matches, whatever. My favorite part from that was Yuji's first comment after being asked, "Did you just insult me?"
Yes. Yeah.
And then everyone's
Yes.
laughing as we are now. And then he snaps into Chosen and says
Yes.
something to the effect of like, "You insult my honor," and
That was
a
amazing.
much bigger response, as you'd imagine, from the crowd. And then Yuji being Yuji doing I'll leave that up to you guys, but he did say like in my prime, he was
Yes.
flabbergasted. But
He-
that was my favorite moment. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but he did say, yeah, he'll leave it up to the fans to decide, like like the best of these matches or whatever. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, the whole thing was just great. This was my first panel, not my first
Hmm.
con, but my first panel. So it was a real cool experience. And I like that they invited young Thomas to join them. That was a last minute decision. He was just there as a fan. He was there with his family, but when they saw him there, they asked him to join them on stage, which I thought was really really cool of them. That was something nice, and just a bunch of small moments when they all first came out and Tanner sits on Yuji's lap. I mean, when else are
Sharing
you
that
going to
today, you
see
guys. We'll look for it.
some? Yeah, when else are you going to see something like that? And then the moment I was referring to earlier with Tanner when everyone was asked to name your three top fights that you've done, and everyone else was trying to be coy and not give stuff away. And even Mary said, like, well, it's not fair. I don't want to say anything about what's to come, so I'll talk about seasons 1 through 5. And then Tanner goes, I don't care about being fair, something like that. 606, 609, 610. Those are my
Very
three
much
best
just
fights.
like that too. Very,
Yeah.
very
Yes.
matter of fact. These are the episodes, and so that's to like what he told you, I guess, when you thought like, oh, this next part or whatever. Same thing, same energy.
We were just like, whoa. And if
Yeah,
you think about all the fights Robbie has been in over the past 6 and a third seasons, that none of those made his top 3. I can't wait to see what's to come for Robbie.
yeah. So, that was my first time meeting Thomas. And Mike, you've met him before, so shout outs to the Parabex. And it was really cool to see him being included in the panel and some of his answers really won the hearts of the audience. I kind of forget the question that he was asked, but it was about playing Johnny, but I just remember one of his responses that got like a huge reaction from the crowd was when he was like, and it was the 80s, like something like that.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like, that it was fun playing Johnny because, and so, yeah, anyway, so that was,
Um,
yeah, a lot of fun.
I
Um, yep,
sorry. I was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say another great moment was Robbie referred to him as dad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't Billy also call him son? Oh, no,
Um,
you're talking about
no,
Thomas.
yeah, no, yeah, he referred to Thomas as dad. Yes, 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 yes.
He also did that with Billy too. He also
Yes, yeah,
called,
he did that with Billy too, but yeah, yeah.
That's
So
funny.
just wanted to throw that in there.
um, the pictured here for those again that are watching at home, this is a picture of me and Rick H. I feel weird about saying like people's full names on a pod, but again, sorry, Chris. So I gave Rick one of these T-shirts as well because he manages most of the cast, not all of them, that was there, and so like Rick is at all these events that we all go to, and he's the one that's like behind the scenes and kind of making things happen so the fans can be that much closer to our favorite characters in IRL. And so got to chop it up with him a few different times. But this moment, I saw him, kind of near backstage, and I wasn't even thinking. I was just like, oh, I'll just walk back over there and give him a T-shirt and go, hey, Rick, and talk to him a little bit. And then it was just so like not too long after that, it might have been some time, but anyway, but that's when the panel would start. So we were definitely waiting, and that's why I felt like, oh, I can go see him real quick. And so, um, all right, moving on. And there's a picture with Mikey and Britt Baker. Inside baseball here, I asked these guys for photos, obviously, so we can share. Mikey decided to send the picture of him and Britt Baker for reasons. And so, because he's laughing, you guys,
Because
if
she's
you're
my
just listening. Yeah.
favorite wrestler, not just women's wrestler, favorite wrestler.
home,
So yeah,
home hometown hero. That's the other
yes,
thing. Yeah.
Pittsburgh
So
Dream.
I thought if he sent it, I will share it. So there we go. And I already shared that little story. So here's one of my favorite photo ops. So I got a photo op with Mary and Yuji, not together, separately. And I was the last one in Yuji's line, and because I was last, I had some time to kind of think it through. And for people that have done these photo ops, like you guys know that it's very much like a conveyor belt. You go in real quick and boom, you're out. Very little to be like, hi, I would like to do a pose of this and that. And also like being Yuji, who knows who I am. And I walked in with 2 shirts in my hands, one on each hand. And I'm like, Yuji, I have a pose idea. And he's like, all right, I'll hold it so you can see the front of the shirt. And then, yep, I didn't even have to explain it. He knew it. He just knew what we were doing, and then we both posed to "You keep for your collection." So again, to the original time that he says it, much more badass delivery as well. Not handing over a damn scroll. Sorry, not sorry. Just changing the context of that. Anyway, so I love it. A lot of people laughed because it's just like, who? Where else have you seen this photo? With Yuji. So I really loved it. Okay, next one here might be the last photo. I'm not sure. Mike, explain what are we looking at? This is your photo op.
Yes, this is me, Lisa and Billy, obviously trying to recreate the take a right scene. So the idea I had in my head, I got this soccer ball, as you can see. I ordered it on Amazon. It turned out to be like a mini soccer ball, which turned out to be even better. I was gonna have me and Lisa on one side, me trying to teach her how to play soccer, and Billy on the other side. looking over at me, looking really, really pissed. I think they didn't exactly get what I was saying, so we're all together here. But now that I'm looking at it, I think it actually ended up better because he's like behind the two of us. There's like a Johnny behind me looking kind of pissed with the fist up, and
Absolutely.
it just works. So it turned out, you never know, but it turned out even better. So this was a fun one.
Yeah, it was. And another fun one is pretty sure this is the second to the last. I know it's last. So this one, Mike, you and I, we got the entire cast, the big group photo. We were
Yep.
second to the last, and we were just like, all right, let's try to do something a little bit different because we didn't know what some of the other we didn't know what the generic pose was going to be, right? So we didn't see a lot of the other pictures yet. And so we were kicking around the ideas and we were thinking about, let's see if we can get them to kind of like bunch in and do like a one big happy family, you know, kind of picture. And a lot of people commented like they thought this was also really great. I'm kind of like bent down a little bit because I thought that I felt Ralph's hand on my back. If you guys are looking at this picture, Ralph is literally behind me with his hand on my back. So I thought he might be looking over my shoulder, but now like kind of observing. Excuse me, my voice is kind of going out. But it looks like there's a bit of a distance, but Ralph wanted to make sure that I wasn't blocking him. Not to say that like he's trying to be in the picture for sure, but it's just kind of a it's just, we're both standing kind of oddly. That's why I pointed it out. But love this one. And we were greeted as we walked in.
You were definitely greeted. If they said my name, I didn't hear it, but it definitely some facial recognition that they knew who we were and that they'd seen us before. And you and I, we planned our matching outfits accordingly. We both got the Korean Cobra Kai shirts and planned the black pants ahead of time. Didn't know we'd both have black shoes, but that worked out. And for those who are listening to this at some time in the future, this con happened in the dead of August in a very hot con, as Chris mentioned earlier. It was hot, so us being dressed up in all black and wearing pants that day, we sacrificed for the good of the photo. But in looking at it now, I think it just came out fantastic.
I do think it's fitting that both you and I are kind of like rooting for Team Korea in this photo, and we are pictured with Sensei of Team Korea. So uh, so there we go. I like that. Love this photo. Everyone looks happy. And then the very
Hmm.
final photo I wanted to end with. Again, Mary was the other person that I spent some time with. I don't want to say spend some time because that just sounds weird. Like I was hanging out with her. We talked. We talked, and she I said, hey, I have this idea for a picture, if you would help me recreate it. It's with Mr. Miyagi and Julie Pierce. And she's like, oh sure, yeah, you'll have to show me. So I pull out the picture and she's like, oh, that's amazing, yeah, let's do it. And so for those that know, Mary's shorter than a lot of people, and so she's like, you're gonna have to get on your knees. And so there was some laughter among people around us, and I only noticed it today, but Tanner's handler, she's in the background of the original photos of Mary and I and me. And she is laughing. She's laughing and her head even goes down at one point and comes back up and she's still looking at us. So I'm like, people were laughing at us because like I'm on my knees and Mary's behind me. And for those that that didn't see the picture, it's the picture of like Pat Morita and Hillary Swank is behind him, and she has her elbows on his shoulders with her fingers laced on his head and her chin on his head. And so that's what Mary's doing to me, and everyone's kind of laughing at us, like trying to get this down. And again, I'm on my knees and like Mary's behind me, like leaning over and stuff. So it was fun. I'm glad she was a good sport about it, but getting a lot of reactions on social media. I knew it would be cool because this is something different, and a lot of people probably aren't familiar with this pose. And I did share it as a side by side, and again, just getting a lot of great reactions and people that I haven't even interacted with on social media for in a while. And just getting comments like, "Oh my God, that's so amazing!" So it was really nice to hear from people that it that it definitely got some attention, and that other people were able to reach out that I had just hadn't heard from in a while, and that kind of opened up a conversation. Hey, how you guys been? That kind of deal. Um, Now I don't, Mikey, you were there to no, any of you guys there to witness this?
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, you were there. Okay. Um, and did you? I showed you the photos, right? So like, I'm trying to get a reaction of like when either of you saw it for the first time. So Mike, you were there, so you kind of already saw it. But Mikey, what about and Chris? What about you when you saw like either the side by side or if I showed you guys in person? I don't recall.
You showed me in person. I will say I think Mary nailed the pose. Like if you look, her and Swank look, sort of identical, and I think she did a really good job. But yeah, yeah, I was. I didn't hear the story about you kneeling down, but I did kind of think in my head, I'm like, how did we accomplish this? But I didn't. I never asked you, so
Yeah, and we had a few different versions of this, and we have a few where her hand is further back on my head because like she's pushing down on my hair, and she even
yeah,
commented like, "Oh, well, like first ones we did, like you can see my hands," and that's kind of important, right? Like if you're recreating it, and her hands behind my head, you that blocks, and then yeah, it just looked a little off, and so obviously we went with the one where you can actually see her hands, and I do like the little smirk that she makes, and she did have versions where she's actually smiling with teeth as well, and so. I think everyone agreed that the smile closed mouth is just right. So
yeah, it's
um
perfect.
yeah, and Mike, actually I forgot that you were the one who actually suggested to remove the background and make it like basically the same background as Miyagi and Julie. And so I'm glad you suggested that because I because I was also thinking like, oh, let me put like a fake background behind us because just the the con background is just so busy, and I think it would take away from the pose. And so shout out to you, Mike, for that suggestion, and it looks great. Chris, when was the first time you saw it?
I saw it later on online. You didn't get a chance to show me this in person, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh my God, that's perfect." How, like who would think to do that? But you did, and it was a brilliant idea. And kudos to Mary for being up for it because that's priceless.
Yeah, and I think it's the thing too, where like like you guys who know me. And like Mary isn't somebody I haven't had a whole lot of interactions with. Like the only interview I did with her was at Paley Fest, so it was a few minutes. Then I guess I did meet her in Disneyland too. But it's like this is a fan slash content creator, and this pose look like friends. Like, like I don't want to sound like I'm patting myself on the back, but it's like I don't think she would have done this with like a random guy in her line, like, hey, can we recreate this photo? Like that there's no context and like there's no like rapport, you know what I mean? So yeah. So I was like, I like all of that. I hear the kids getting a little restless up there. I am positive that is the last picture, so I'll just go back to the very beginning. You guys, thank you so much for spending some time and sharing your guys' stories. I know this was like rushed and last minute, and so I just hope there weren't things that I reached out to people asking for like information of to share that I'm just completely forgetting. But we'll start with Chris as we end this. Anything else you want to share about Steel City Con, the con itself, or just like your thoughts of your overall first time experience?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks again for inviting me on here. I've been listening to you even since before you started this podcast. I date back to the Back to the Future animated podcast, which is a
Chris,
pretty deep cut. And when I discovered that you were also doing a Cobra Kai podcast, I was like, oh wait, that's the guy from the Back to the Future animated podcast. Holy crap! Um,
you
so
continue to just drop new shit
mind
every
blown.
time we talk, dude. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, man. So thanks
That's
again.
talk
This
about a
is
deep
really a
cut.
blast.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but like I don't know anybody that listens to my Back to the Future animated series podcast.
I'm the guy. You found him right here.
That's amazing. Thank you so much,
That's how much
David.
of a Back to the Future nerd I am. But yeah, no, thanks again. Thanks again for the awesome shirt. It is so cool. And I am honored to have been given one. This was just an awesome experience. Like the next day I was telling my wife, I was like, oh my God, like I think I'm like actually depressed now, like that it's over. Like I'm having post-con depression. Like it was just an awesome experience, not only to be able to just meet, the stars of my favorite show, but just to see the energy around it, just to see, like you said, families all showing up wearing Cobra Kai shirts, wearing different dojo shirts too, um, and people in gis, and just the whole the energy and excitement. It was something that I'll never forget. I'm going to think about this weekend a lot. It was awesome to have met all three of you. Um, and honestly, it just made me want to connect even more with other fans. So it kind of got me, inspired to dip my toes back in the social media game, which I haven't been on in a while. So yeah, I just had such a positive experience, and um, great memories that I will take with me for a really long time.
Well, I mean, look, again, I don't know anybody that listens to my Back to the Future Animated Series podcast, but like this is, I'm not gonna forget this. Like this is amazing. Like I even forget that I hosted that pod. So anybody that's interested, it's not dead. We just, it's just one of those things we get to when we get to. And shout out to Albie, my co-host, who runs Fair in Space, and he's the one who started the Quantum Leap podcast, and that was also an early inspiration for me to get into podcasting. So it all kind of like, full circle kind of thing. Now, Chris, something that you said makes me want to jump to Mike first, or Mike next rather, because Mike was the first person that I saw that was already having withdrawals, that this guy went back and watched part one after he went back home.
Yeah, I'm still having withdrawals. It was just an absolutely perfect weekend. It's like, you build these things up in your head and then, like, oh, sometimes it doesn't turn out exactly the way you think. I mean, this was just better in every conceivable way. Meeting you guys, meeting the other companions, meeting some of my friends from Instagram, making new friends this past weekend, meeting all the cast members. I right before the panel started, you and I, Peter, we were up, and Mikey, we were up in the fourth row. I stood up, turned around, and faced the the whole audience, and I took a picture of it, and I sent it to John Hurwitz, and I was like, "Look what you did, man," because he was following all our stuff. He was so jealous that he wasn't there, and I was just like, "Look what you did, man. This is all for you." And like it was just that tent was just filled with people from everywhere, different countries, people dressed up and just wanting to see this show. And it was like, final season. It's the culmination. It was just something really cool. So it was just a great event. It happened to be perfectly timed that it came out right after the first drop of the last season. So people had a particular amount of energy having just seen a new season, and everyone was just in great spirits, and it was just a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Mikey, final last words about this weekend, past weekend?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out. I talked to a lot of people waiting in lines, which is kind of where you make a lot of friends in cons. You know, this whole con ended up being a Cobra Kai con, even though none of them were actually headliners for this con technically, but because there were so many cast members, I don't know that there's ever been a con where there's been 8 Cobra Kai cast members at one time. I don't think that's happened, but I could be wrong. But it was great to meet so many fans in gis and dressing up and talking to so many people. The Cobra Kai I attended a lot of panels this over the weekend. The Cobra Kai panel was by far the most packed one. People were standing, along in between the rows. Um, yeah, and it was great to meet everyone from the cast. Everyone was so nice. And There was something else I wanted to say and I forgot. Sorry.
It may come back to you. If it
Okay.
comes back to you, excuse me, I'll let
Oh,
you jump in.
here, I'll
Um,
just say real quick.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'll just say, I'll just say, I just wanted to, if you know, I Steel City Con organizers, they're doing better. People, they'll comment about this con. It's not like a state-of-the-art facility, but it was hot, but at least they brought in more air conditioners as the weekend went on and stuff. So it was a really nice event. That's all. Sorry.
Mikey was lost for words because I flashed that picture of him and Britt Baker again. That's
Oh,
just why.
speechless.
Uh, um, I enjoyed so much meeting a lot of people, but this was also the first time that I met people that I didn't know that knew me from the podcast or the YouTube channel. There's a few names that I do remember. There was like a Brandon and a Daniel and a Robert, all of which were like, "Hey, Peter, like, you don't know me, but I watch your videos or I listen to your podcast," and they all took pictures with me, and so um, that was so amazing. Just to be recognized by somebody you don't know, and it's just it's a different kind of feeling because like Chris, like I didn't know you listened to the damn Back to the Future podcast, and so you saying that just like it's blowing my mind. I was like, what? And so you make these things and then you put them out there and you're just like, it's great if anybody listens, but yeah, just the amount of love I was getting. Also, shout out to Misa, who was also there, who also saw me. Dominic, one of the handlers, who put me in touch with Lorraine from Sopranos. So that was cool. Shout outs to him and cool toys. Um, and RJ, who loves to cosplay at all as all the different Billy deep cuts commercials and stuff, so he has like this like silly blonde wig that he always wears when he's like teenage Billy from a TV commercial or whatever. And so he was there with his fiance. So shout outs to him and Myra. Just yeah, running into all those people was really, really special. And I gotta say, like as a fan, this was like my favorite con ever, and like the Back to the Future one was really cool too and I met people that were also fans, but like this was more special to me. Um, and then like Philly Fest, that's not a con. That was a cool experience. I was media, but like obviously that moment with Billy is like gonna be like the one thing I'm always gonna hold like a special place in my heart. And then like being a fan at Steel City Con with all of you guys and all the new friends that I made, the other familiar faces that I saw I don't think I'm ever going to experience anything like that again. Um, so I think we'll end it there. So hopefully the episode review will come out. Well, we've got to record it. So it probably won't be the next episode. I have an interview with Frank Helmer you guys are going to love. So that may or may not be next. I got an episode with Cody at Overstrike First Media where he talks about his time as an extra in one of the episodes in part one because he was in a couple of them. And then we did something fun because it was before the show came out and we thought it'd be fun to quote unquote predict what might be some really good quotes coming out of the fandom. And so we had different approaches on that, but it was still a fun time nonetheless. And it right there. Thank you guys for joining in, Chris, Mike, and Mikey. Thanks to all those that continue to support Companion. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode.